Hello and welcome to Healing Womanhood. My name's Saffron and this is another instalment of our How to Do EFT series. And today we are talking about how do I know if it's working? So you're tapping away, you're saying your things, you're coming up with your words, but how do you know if it's working? So there are some instances where we know immediately if it's working. You're tapping on a headache, the headache goes, that's really clear. But if you're tapping on something like a belief, that can be more difficult to quantify. Or even if you're tapping on anxiety, sometimes you can notice a change in your body. Say it's like a swirling feeling in your tummy, that can be quite easy to quantify, but there can be other times where it's less easy to quantify. So we're going to talk about two ways of knowing that our tapping is working today. So the first one is the SUDs rating, and the second one are the energetic release signs within our body. So the SUDs rating is subjective units of distress or subjective units of discomfort, SUD. And that is the rating that you give when your practitioner says something like, on a scale from 0 to 10, how strong does that feel? So you're working with a pain on a scale from 0 to 10, how intense is that pain? Is it 0, no pain at all? Is it 10, the worst that pain has ever been? Or is it somewhere in the middle? And we can use that for all kinds of things. We can use it for an emotion. How anxious do you feel? 0, completely calm. 10, as anxious as I've ever felt. We can use it for a belief. How strongly do you believe that? How true does it feel that, for instance, I'm not good enough? 0, I don't believe that at all. I know that I'm good enough. 10, it's not a belief, it's just a fact. I'm not good enough. Fact. Or somewhere in the middle, how strong does that belief feel? You can use it for most things, the SUDs rating. And because of this subjective part, it's really, really useful. You don't have to get it right. Nobody's marking you on it, but it just gives you a quantifiable measure of whether the tapping is working. So the idea being that you rate your SUDs rating, pain, anxiety, belief, confidence, eyesight, whatever it is you're working on, before you tap. Then you do some tapping. It might be a round, it might be several rounds, it might be a full session, and then you do your SUDs rating again and see if there's been any shift, if it's gone up or down, or if it's stayed the same. If it's stayed the same, that's still valuable information that you haven't quite cracked the core of what you need to get at to shift this issue for you. Because if we didn't do that, if we didn't have the SUDs rating and see that had stayed the same, then we might just keep tapping on the same thing over and over again and not getting any results and thinking, well, why isn't that working? If we have a SUDs rating that stays the same, then we have the information that, okay, I need to try something different here. I need to try some different words. I need to come at it from another angle. So I don't use SUDs ratings tons with my clients. I tend to watch for signs of release a little bit more, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. But I think it can be really useful when you're starting out, and it can be really useful with certain types of things, and lots of practitioners do use it a lot with their clients. I don't want it to sound like it's just a beginner thing at all. It is a really, really useful measure. That's just not how my sessions often tend to flow. So the other piece that we were going to talk about today were signs of energetic release in the body. So one of the most common, and one that's really, really common for me, is yawning. And I can do some really big yawns when I'm tapping, much bigger than if I was just feeling tired. And that is the energy shifting in the body. And I can feel like I want to yawn even now just talking about it. Sometimes just hearing the word yawn makes you want to yawn, doesn't it? So yawning is one of our clearest signs of release. But we can also find that our actual energy levels shift, so we can start feeling much more energetic, or we can start feeling completely exhausted. And it doesn't have to be that the same thing happens all the time either. I had this in a session recently with somebody that I was doing a swap with, and I haven't had it for a long time, this feeling of total exhaustion in a session. And it's just a sign that something is moving and shifting. Another possible sign can be burping. Sometimes that's how the energy clears. That can be quite embarrassing in a session, but it's completely okay because your practitioner will know that that is a thing that happens and they're not going to judge you, not in the slightest. Sometimes we even get coughs or sneezes. Sometimes we can get a scratchy voice. Sometimes your posture will change. You might sit back, your shoulders might relax, or you might tense up, and that can be a sign that we've hit on something really key that we need to stick with and keep tapping on and get to the bottom of so that we can release it, particularly if we're doing the deep work. So all of these things are just different ways that bodies release energy. Some people can get tingles in their fingers, some people get tingles on the points that they're tapping on. And that's a really normal sign of energy releasing as well. So if you've had any different signs of energy releasing, I would love to hear about that. I'd love to know what your experience has been. Have you had any unusual ones? Have you had any of the ones that I've mentioned today? Let me know in the comments and I would love to hear about that. And I will see you in the next video.